crush from afar and you don't really have as much life experience to go up and talk to the person, and it's not always born of friendship. And if I give anyone advice, if anyone asks me for advice, I try not to give advice, but they're like, come on, like how do you, because my husband and I genuinely have just such a beautiful relationship, and we have a friendship first and foremost, like we are best.
It's not every day the husband gets to interview his wife's love interest in a film. It's kind of crazy.
I don't remember seeing this on the schedule.
Dive in, shall we? So I saw you posing in a photo with Mrs. Reynolds, and I'm sorry, what do you call her? Do you guys have a nickname or something? Okay, no, just so it's Mrs. Okay. Anyway, I saw this photo. It was pretty suggestive. So I got it right here. I'm gonna get right to it. How do you explain that?
Hey friends, it's Katie, and welcome back to my channel. So, over the weekend, or maybe it was Friday, Glamour magazine published this really harsh article about digital content creators, calling out something they labeled the Mommy Loose group as part of a so-called hate machine against Blake Lively. Now, my content wasn't mentioned, but I noticed some creators I've actually spoken to and connected with on Instagram were referenced, and honestly, I found it pretty offensive. The way they were portrayed in the article didn't match the people I know at all. It really bothered me because the whole tone of the Glamour piece seemed to be, if you don't support Blake, you must be a misogynist. The journalist behind this, Stephanie McNeil, is someone I've followed for years. She used to work at BuzzFeed. There was a whole drama there. And before that, she was at Fox News, which might surprise you. She positions herself as this super progressive journalist who gets misogyny, but she often misses the mark. She writes in this preachy first-person style, pushing her own views as if they're the only ones that matter. Her article linked to several TikToks and Twitter posts from people sharing their thoughts or theories about Blake Lively, which, honestly, isn't that different from what Stephanie herself is doing. One example she included was a video by Melanie King. I don't know Melanie personally, but I know she's on YouTube and has a pretty big platform. In the video, she reads a headline from a court story where Blake Lively's attorneys requested a protective order due to concerns about profound mental health issues. This phrase actually comes from the March 6th oral arguments presented to Judge Lyman. Her attorney said, "One of the reasons we used the type of language we did, without specifying exact categories, is because it's hard to predict what might fall into this. But it's not hard to imagine materials discussing children, profound mental health issues, or private home locations. Given who these people are, there's a level of personal and intimate information that, in a typical case, might not require an AEO, but here it does. It's a lot to unpack. And honestly, the way this whole situation was framed just feels off to me. This category of AEO was meant to protect medical records containing information about profound mental health issues. That's straight from the court. No one was diagnosing Blake with anything. That's just what her attorneys requested. Stephanie's article, though, cherry-picked the most sensational parts, which felt really ignorant. If you actually read the court records or listen to the oral arguments, which I did, you'd see that mental health was brought up multiple times by her attorneys. That's why I had a similar headline. It was clear this was a significant point in the case. But Stephanie's article lumped everyone together with people she doesn't like Candace Owens, House of Habit, and Megyn Kelly. Now, let me be clear. I'm not a fan of any of those three women. I'm not conservative, and I don't consume their content. But if others do, that's their choice. I just wish Stephanie hadn't brought them up because there are plenty of other people discussing this who aren't like them. By including those names, she made it seem like anyone who doesn't agree with Blake is part of some conspiracy-driven, hateful crowd. She even claimed that this kind of criticism is damaging all women, saying, "This is not normal, and it's about more than just Blake Lively." She argued that since our Me Too gained traction in 2018, an online war has eroded the movement's progress. She wrote that if critics can't stop famous women from speaking out, they instead try to damage their credibility through relentless hate and misogyny. She also claimed that women, mostly civilians, are being convinced by TikTok to turn on each other. But I don't see how Melanie's video, again, I don't know her, discussing court hearings is turning on Blake. It's literally what Blake's lawyer said. Stephanie also mentioned a video by Donna from Daily Dose of Donna, where Donna talked about Michelle Trenberg's passing and Blake's post about her. Donna spoke to one of Michelle's friends, who said Michelle and Blake weren't close and that Michelle wouldn't have appreciated the post. Stephanie framed that as hate. But isn't it just Michelle's friends standing up for her? Rest in peace, Michelle. Anyway, this article sparked a lot of anger online, and you don't have to align with any political side to have an opinion. Personally, I'm a liberal and a registered Democrat. Some of you might not like that, but I don't bring politics into my channel. It's not what I'm about. I have my own views, and honestly, this situation is just... I think most people know I'm a feminist, but I'm also not naive enough to believe that women never lie. I mean, come on. I've covered creators like Ruby Franca from 8 Passengers, who lied constantly on her channel, or Gypsy Rose Blanchard, who continues to lie every day she's in the public eye. I've talked about Casey Anthony, the women from the Doug cult who covered for their dad, or even the Duggar family hangers-on who lied for years. And let's not forget the women from Sister Wives, who, until they left the cult, were lying. 2. Here's the thing. Women lie. Women lie for men, for power, for all sorts of reasons. Women aren't immune to lying, and in this case, I wanted to believe Blake until I started seeing the evidence. When all the evidence is laid out, how can you still believe her? I think to date on the case, or if she has, she doesn't care. This article feels like it's designed to inflame and enrage us, to make us fight with her instead of focusing on the real issues. She posted this on Glamour's talk, and people were furious in the comments. Stephanie even made a comment like, "I'm not working for the CIA," implying she's not on Blake's side. But let's be real, she kind of is. Legacy media like Glamour has a history with Blake. She's been on their cover multiple times. They have relationships with Blake, Reynolds, Taylor Swift, and other celebrities. They're in the business of maintaining those connections to give us a glamorous peek into these stars' lives. If they start questioning these celebrities, they risk losing access and getting blacklisted. I know this firsthand. When you stop promoting the PR or propaganda that shows or celebrities want, they cut you off. I've made videos criticizing shows like Sister Wives, and I know those people will never speak to me again because I don't just repeat their talking points. Glamour, though, they won't push back or ask hard questions. They want you to take everything at face value without critical thinking. Stephanie even uses the term mommy sleuth in her title, mocking the idea that people digging into Blake's story are just obsessed with celebrity gossip. But then she ties it to bigger issues like abortion rights, Trump, and assaults on women's rights, as if not believing Blake is somehow connected to those things. It's not. Questioning Blake has nothing to do with my rights as a woman or abortion access. Stephanie's creating divisiveness where it doesn't need to exist. She's framing this as part of a larger cultural war. But it's not that simple. She says, this is the same world where a woman, even as... And it's clear she's trying to tie everything together in a way that just doesn't hold up. It's frustrating because it feels like she's dismissing valid concerns and lumping everyone into a category that doesn't fit. A powerful actress faces the complete destruction of her reputation by online mommy sleuths for daring to accuse a man of sexual harassment. But here's the thing. Blake Lively isn't the only one affected. Once you dehumanize one woman, it becomes easier to dehumanize all of them. This is a tactic is often. They did it with Amber Heard, claiming that if she lost her case, it would hurt all women. But Amber Heard doesn't represent me, and Blake Lively certainly doesn't represent you. At the end of the day, this is just Stephanie's opinion in a magazine that doesn't even print anymore. It's essentially an online blog now. They rely on advertisers and SEO to make money. So they need clicks and views to keep the lights on. Stephanie's playing the game for engagement, and she got upset when people pushed back. She tried to pit women against each other, saying we should support women while she herself wasn't doing that. It was all very hypocritical. She even posted on Instagram, rambling and accusing content creators of making money off the story. She said, "The amount of insults and harassment I'm getting for this, I have people telling me I'm a bad mother." But here's the thing. She wrote an article where she told women reporting on Blake that we're threatening reproductive rights, comparing us to Trump and calling us misogynists. She insulted people, calling them mommy sleuths and reducing them to conspiracy-driven, brainwashed individuals. Then she made a TikTok video calling it a spin wash. I responded by saying, "Stephanie, you insulted women who work as content creators and called us mommy sleuths. That should give people pause." She started this by lumping everyone together, calling us names, and making it seem like we're trying to take away rights. But I'm not a political channel, and I don't appreciate being misrepresented. My response was clear. Stephanie can't read the room. She wrote an article labeling women as mommy sleuths and criticized them for being delusional. She plays the victim. Instead of reporting on the actual story, she wrote a hit piece about content creators trying to harm their businesses. This is an obvious distraction because mainstream media can't handle the fact that their old way of reporting is dying. Content creators are a threat to their bottom line, and that's the real issue here. Watching videos by actual lawyers discussing this case, lawyers with no stake in the matter, and not one of them believes Blake Lively has a strong case. Her allegations don't meet the legal standard for sexual harassment or a hostile work environment. As one lawyer said, being annoyed by your boss or thinking he's weird isn't a legal claim. Others pointed out that if the jury finds even one instance where Blake lied, they're instructed to discount her entire testimony. There are plenty of examples that hurt her credibility. She's admitted in magazine interviews that she and her husband lie on social media. She's said on camera that she lies to journalists because they won't fact-check. And in a Forbes interview, she admitted to obtaining jobs under false pretenses and then using her power to control the narrative. It's a messy situation, and Stephanie's article real issues. Blake Lively didn't gain control over the film until after she forced the team to sign a document giving her more power. Lawyers have pointed out that this makes her sexual harassment claims seem fabricated. Lively claims she didn't speak about domestic violence during the press tour because she was following the marketing plan, yet she went off script to promote her own businesses. These are just some of the issues lawyers have raised, showing how Blake might struggle to defend herself in court. There's no attacking Stephanie in these arguments. Just facts. Then, out of nowhere, someone named Brian Henry showed up in my comments saying, "Mommy sleuth versus a bad mom? Big difference. Encouraging continued attacks doesn't make you the hero, but congrats on the engagement." Funny enough, Stephanie's husband Brian works in SEO and content distribution for a big real estate guy named Ryan, who was on $1 Million Listing. His job is to make content go viral to attract business. So, I responded, "Your wife needs help," and added, in true feminist form, sarcasm, Stephanie can dish it out but relies on her husband to attack creators for her. I never said anyone should attack her. She's the one who wrote the article and made disparaging comments about women. Stephanie started this by using inflammatory language, accusing people of being alt-right, and using clickbait to make it seem like the criticism of Blake is hate-driven. What she's not acknowledging is that many of the people covering this story are simply reviewing court records, evidence, and listening to oral arguments. I spent 2 hours listening to a hearing because the judge allowed public access. If Stephanie had done the same, she'd understand why so many of us have questions. Instead, she acts like Blake's case is flawless and anyone who doubts it is crazy. She started this fight, and when I responded, not by attacking her, but by calling her out, she couldn't handle it. She used Glamour, a nearly 90-year-old publication, now digital, to attack creators who don't have the same power, lawyers, or corporate backing as Blake. Glamour has featured Blake on their cover multiple times and clearly needs to maintain access to her and her circle. They're protecting Blake while attacking everyday people who are just trying to understand the case. When you tell women they're harming other women by questioning a celebrity, of course, you're going to get backlash. Stephanie used her platform to silence critics, but all she did was create more division. She's part of a system that prioritizes access to the wealthy and powerful over honest journalism. Meanwhile, creators like me are just trying to piece together the truth from the evidence available. It's not about hate. It's about holding people accountable no matter how famous they are. Blake started this fight, and then she ran away, with her tail between her legs. Now, I've been told that Taylor Lauren, who's also problematic, has been posting about this on her Instagram stories. There's a whole group of journalists who seem to have it out for content creators, and Stephanie is one of them. She wrote this article for Glamour, a magazine that's featured Blake on its cover multiple times. Stephanie's political views seem to shift depending on her job. She worked as a news editor at Fox News for 3.5 years, which is ironic because she now criticizes conservatives. From 2011 to 2014, she was at Fox News, then moved to BuzzFeed, and now she's at Glamour, acting like a progressive. To To me, that says her politics are for sale. I don't play those games. I'm consistent no matter where I am. Stephanie, on the other hand, seems to change her stance based on her employer. What bothers me most is that I gave her a chance to respond. I left comments on her posts that weren't attacking her. I never called her names, criticized her parenting, or even mentioned her being a mom. I didn't even know she had a kid. But her husband came into my comments accusing me of calling her a bad mother, while she's over here calling us mommy sleuths. And it's not just that, she labeled us as a threat to women, claiming we're brainwashed and can't think for ourselves. The tagline of her article said, "The death of Dear Me Too and embrace of patriarchal ideals isn't coming from politics, it's coming from women online." First of all, Blake herself called Ryan a patriarch in a 2014 interview, praising him for his leadership. I'm not embracing patriarchal ideals, and neither are many of the people she lumped into her article. When I left comments on her page, they weren't abusive. I simply called her out. Instead of responding, she sent her husband to defend her in my comments. Is that what a true feminist would do? If she really was, wouldn't she stand up for herself instead of sending her husband to fight her battles? Meanwhile, she accuses me of doing this for clicks and views, when her husband literally works in SEO, and so does she. They start the fight, create the chaos, throw the first insults, and then act shocked when people push back. When you insult an entire industry, my industry, of course, you're going to get backlash. I'm an independent journalist, a content creator, whatever you want to call me. When you lump us all together and claim we're all the same, of course, people will get upset. Glamour has every reason to defend Blake. They need to maintain access to her and her circle. And Brian Henry, Stephanie's husband, has his own. Incentives? His boss sells high-priced real estate to Ryan Reynolds' friends. He's not going to risk that by siding against Blake. There's no empathy here for Justin, his wife, or the women at Wayfair who lost their jobs because of Blake's actions. There's no empathy for the assistant directors who were fired or the staff who were harmed. Blake showed no empathy for domestic violence victims during her press tour, no empathy for Dylan Farrow when she defended Woody Allen, and no empathy for the people whose lives she's impacted. It's all about protecting her image, and Stephanie's article is